Tommy, I knew you wouldn't let me down with that question. I knew it would be the first question of the day. First of all, I'd like to announce that we have not deflated our baseballs, okay? They're perfectly legal. The baseball that Tommy Kreisen is asking about is if you've had your head in the sand around the sport of college baseball in the last year, the bats have not changed, but the ball has. And what they have done is we now have a baseball that has a flat seam. The concept was, and this is what we were hoping as coaches, was that the higher seamed ball, when you hit it and it hit it well and it had air under it, that the high seams kind of gave a drag effect, much like an airplane that would lower its landing gear to slow its plane down while it's trying to land. And that was kind of slowing the baseballs down. So the idea was if the seams got flattened, consequently less drag, would the ball carry further? Nobody really knew for sure what was going to happen, although some testing indicated that you might get 20 to 30 feet more carry. Tommy, I'm happy to report, quite frankly, that it has proven to be true. During the course of fall practice, we hit 16 home runs this fall. Now, that's not an exorbitant number, but by comparison, we hit 10 the previous fall. Pretty much the same hitters. I will tell you even more specifically, the other day we had a situational simulation of a game with a pitcher against a hitter, obviously with a catcher. Because we're only allowed to have limited players at practice at one time, you have to use your imagination to get your pitchers ready. We hit 3 home runs off our pitchers the other day. And we also have this device that tracks the exit speed of the ball after a ball is hit. The 3 home runs that were hit all had an exit speed of 94 miles an hour. Now, that maybe doesn't mean anything to you, but last year we hit several balls in excess of 100 miles an hour exit speed that did not fly out of the ballpark, that landed on the warning track. So from our indication is there is going to be more life given to the offense, that the ball will carry more if you hit it well, and that last 20 feet may mean the difference between a ball landing on the warning track or going into the stands. And I think anybody that loves college baseball will probably be happy to see that. It's hard for me to predict. I think we hit about 40 home runs last year, Bill, if I'm not mistaken. If I did predict, I would guess we're going to probably hit 60 to 70 home runs this year. So it's not going to be a return to the gorilla ball days, no question about that. But I do think there'll be a little bit more home runs and consequently maybe some late inning rallies and that type of thing. Now, I know Tommy Kreisen was an outstanding pitcher, so he's, of course, concerned about what the pitchers think about throwing the ball. But the reality of the reaction I've gotten from the pitchers is they actually enjoy throwing the ball more as well. I know when Kevin Gosman was here, he had terrible problems with blisters from that raised seam. So the problem with blisters is much more reduced. That the ball actually feels smaller in the pitcher's hands. So they feel like they can throw it with more velocity. They feel more confident throwing it. And although it may hurt them a little bit in the spinning of the ball for a breaking ball because they can't create the same friction, they're feeling like they're getting a little bit more movement with their fastball. So it kind of balances out in some ways, but I think everybody would be happy to see a few more home runs in the game.
Hey, Coach, for your returning veterans, specifically the juniors like Bregman and Stevenson and Laird, what have you seen from them after last year ended, through the fall, into this spring, in terms of their leadership and being the go-to guys on this year's team?
Well, I don't want to sound like a hypocrite here, Chad, like I'm playing both sides of the fence because, I'm telling you that we're going to go with freshman pitchers, and I don't think experience is going to be that important for them. But yet, for the position players, I think the experience is a great factor for them. If we had inexperience all over the field and on the pitcher's mound, I'd be nervous. But because we're so young on the mound, the thing that gives me a great deal of comfort is the fact that we do have a lot of experienced players. And you mentioned Stevenson, Laird, and Bregman specifically. These are 3 guys that have been 3-year starters in the program. But you could throw a lot more guys into that mix when you start talking about veterans. They may not have played or started for 3 full years, but Kramer Robertson's got a year under his belt. Chinea has been part-time starter for a couple of years. Connor Hale, who was a junior college transfer last year, is now in his 2nd year at LSU. but his 4th year in college. Jake Fraley's got a year under his belt. Even Danny Zardone, although he played very sporadically last year, a year under his belt. So let's not forget Cade Civic as well, who was our starting catcher by the end of the year last year. So I think all of that experience gives those guys a great deal of confidence. After they left us last spring, they all went out and had pretty good summers. In fact, it'd probably be hard-pressed to find a starting lineup out there in college baseball that could probably give these facts to you. We had 5 players that made the Cape Cod League All-Star game last summer. A 6th player was the starting shortstop on Team USA. And if Danny Zardone and Jake Fraley are starting players, you've got 2 other guys that played in Cape Cod and had pretty good summers. So I like the experience of our team, and I think what comes with that is they've been through it, and it gives them a great deal of confidence that they know what it takes. And I think by having a good defensive team out there, it gives those freshman pitchers a lot of confidence that if they're not afraid to throw the ball over the plate, there's a pretty good chance somebody behind them is going to catch it. And so, I think the leadership of that group is going to be very significant this year.
Coach, last year you had several pitchers that sat out the year with injuries. Could you give us an update on them and what their progress is?
Let's see. I can think of Russell Reynolds. Christian Playa's transferred, so I can't give you an update on him. What other pitchers do? Oh, Jesse Stallings. Yes. Well, let me start with the positive. Okay, Jesse Stallings is a young man from Grant, Louisiana, and he had Tommy John surgery in his senior year in high school, and then sat out last year. I'll tell you what. He threw day before yesterday in a simulated game. And I'm going to tell you, I drove home after practice, and all I could think about was Jesse Stallings, quite frankly. He was 90 to 92 miles an hour with a pretty good breaking ball and a really good changeup. Really quick arm. He struck out Jake Fraley with a 92-mile-an-hour fastball right under his hands. It was really an outstanding pitch. So I'm excited about that young man. He's a wonderful kid, a very intelligent young man, greatest attitude you ever saw. I think he's going to help us. Russell Reynolds has been a very difficult situation. He's a great competitor. He's got a lot of talent. We just can't keep him healthy out there. He missed all of last year because he had labrum surgery, and then he was ready to pitch in the summer. We assigned him to the Acadiana Cane Cutters over in Lafayette. He pitched a grand total of 3.2 innings before he strained an oblique muscle and missed the rest of the summer. Then we're excited about him pitching this fall. It's really time to see what he can do. And he fell off the back of a pickup truck and landed on his non-throwing elbow and damaged his left elbow, so he couldn't pitch all fall. So he hasn't really pitched in almost 2 years. And it's a shame because this kid's got a lot of talent. So I will say this. In September, before he fell off the pickup truck, he looked really good in his side sessions in the bullpen with Alan Dunn. And that's why I was so excited about seeing him pitch this fall. He doesn't look as sharp right now as he did last September. So we're hoping that he's going to keep knocking the rust off and that he'll keep getting better over the course of the next 3 weeks, 2 months, whatever. And when he's ready to help us, he'll step in. Hopefully it'll be sooner than later. Pardon me? Oh, and Hunter Newman, excuse me. Yeah, I forgot about Hunter, too. Hunter had not a very serious shoulder injury, but he had to just get something cleaned up. And Hunter has, quite frankly, been up and down. I mean, he's had some days where you look at him and you say, wow, that looked really good. He throws the ball with command, and his curveball's got a tight spin to it. It's kind of a knee buckler to the right-handed hitters. And then other days his command's not so good and his curveball kind of rolls up there. Again, I attribute that to the fact that he's been hurt, and we'll see how quickly the consistency comes back for him. But he's healthy.
Hey, Coach. The Jordan boys are alike in so many ways. What makes them different on the field defensively and as well as at the plate, and have you been able to tell them apart yet?
Let me tell you something. I love those two kids. When Javi Sanchez came to me a couple years ago, he said to me, I know you want versatile guys, and especially now with the roster limits and so forth. And when you look at the two Jordan boys, they're not really versatile with defensive ability necessarily. Bo's, kind of a corner outfielder. Bryce played first base. They converted him to catcher as a senior, and actually he's starting to develop as a catcher a little bit. But Javi said, I'm just telling you, I know what you like in players as far as their attitude and their competitiveness. You need to take these kids. And so just based on Javi's word, I said, let's go ahead and recruit them. Every day goes by, I love those kids more and more. I'm telling you, they are ball players. I mean, they just are tough, hard-nosed kids that compete as hard as anybody possibly can. They work extremely hard. They're not afraid of anything. Bo Jordan this fall, I'll bet you he had in inter-squad scrimmages 6 or 7 two-out RBI singles with a runner on second base, which to me it takes something special in a player to do those kind of things. And that catches my attention. I just really like him, and Bryce is the same way. Offensively, Bryce broke the national record for hit by pitches for high school baseball players. Not that you recruit a guy because he gets hit by pitches. It just shows you how gritty he is and how tough he is. He's not afraid of anything, and he's getting better. And he's a pretty good first baseman as well, just not real tall, but he can't do much about that, obviously. But they're both really good ball players, and I think they're both going to be starting players at LSU at some point in their career, and they're going to help us win a lot of games. Again, right now, we don't need them to be starting players, and so they're going to have to be a little bit patient, but they might be that kid that, all of a sudden you give a guy a chance and he provides a spark for your team, and then it's really hard to get him out of the lineup. That's happened with some guys in past years around here, and those guys would be really good candidates for that. But Bo is more of an outfielder, corner outfielder probably. Bryce has a little bit more versatility where he could play first or catch.